how you described that to me is most meaningful on your journey to medical school and most meaningful on your journey to liking science, and not most meaningful to you as a person. eShadowing on July 5th, 2021. Hello, everyone. We have a Q&A session today because, unfortunately, our guest is jet-setting off to Paris for a wedding and was unable to come tonight, and we didn't, there's a little miscommunication, and we didn't know soon enough to rebook. So we're going to do some Q&A. So if you want to come in and ask some questions, we're just going to have some fun. We'll count this if you stay for 45 minutes and answer the question on the quiz. We'll give you the credit as more of a job interviewing. I forget the terminology there. Hello, Amy.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, cool. So I kind of missed what you said in the beginning there, but I have two questions. One was actually for the surgeon tonight. Every night when we have eShadowing, I tell my parents who our specialist is, and I say, hey guys, do you have any questions? And so they had a really great question for tonight. So instead, I'm going to ask you if that's all right.
You can ask me.
Do you know if having multiple abdominal surgeries can cause hernias?
That is a good question, and my assumption is yes. I don't know any data on it, though, because I'm not a hernia surgeon. But anytime you open the abdominal wall, anytime you do surgery anywhere, there are risks of complications. And with abdominal surgery, there's lots of risks for adhesions, which are basically scars, a fancy word for scars, in the abdominal cavity, which cause, unfortunately, obstructions in your GI tract. So that's one of the common things that happens with GI kind of gut surgery, abdominal surgery. But yeah, anytime that you, I can't think of the correct terminology, but anytime you break down the barrier that you have, when you're cutting through skin and fat and muscle, you get to fascia, which is really thick connective tissue that surrounds our abdominal wall. And anytime that is breached through surgery, we cut it, right? Or if you're stabbed or impaled or any other way that unfortunate things happen to you, then you will potentially have the chance that when those two edges come back together through surgery, hopefully they come together nice and clean, and you suture them together, then you there's always a chance that separates again, which is a hernia. So yeah.
Awesome, thank you. And then I kind of have one other question related to, I'm assuming this is for like pre-med, applying medical school Q&A tonight. So my question relates to being an MD, PhD applicant. I have the strong possibility of having a manuscript submitted for publication within the next few months. I've already submitted my AMCAS application, though. Okay. Would it be appropriate as an MD, PhD applicant to send an update letter if I were to get that first author publication within the next couple of months?
So every medical school is different with what they will allow in terms of updates. So you'll just have to go school by school to the schools that you apply to and see what their policy is on sending updates. But yes, if they allow updates and that's something that specific category is okay, then go for it.
All right. Thank you so much. And thank you for all your advice. You're the best pre-med advisor I've ever had.
Woo! All right. You are welcome. For those just tuning in, our guest, unfortunately, with the holiday weekend, had some other plans. She's off to Paris for a wedding. So it's just you and me tonight. I hope that's okay. We're going to hang out, answer some questions. If you're bored of me, that's fine. I wouldn't be sad if you left, but we'll still count this as an hour of eShadowing if you want to come hang out. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, how's it going?
It's going. How are you?
Good. I'm about to submit my applications this week. I'm very excited, and
Woohoo.
I am trying to figure out on the AMCAS application my three most significant experiences.
Yep.
And to be completely honest, my clinical experiences aren't really one of the three most significant experiences for me personally. And I feel like that's a problem, but it would not be particularly truthful to say that they were. And
Yep.
I was thinking of elaborating on something other than a clinical experience for my third one. And I've definitely heard a lot of advice that clinical experience ought to be one of your most significant experiences. But have you seen this come up? And is this something that, is worth dealing with?
Yeah. So I think the three most meaningful activities, for those of you who don't know, AMCAS allows you to mark the three most meaningful activities that you have. The application does not specify that these three most meaningful have to be related to medicine or three most meaningful in terms of your journey to medical school or to be a physician. And I always tell students it's your three most meaningful activities in your life that to you as a person. Now, there's always a little bit of hesitation when none of them have anything to do with medicine. And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I understand that. Well, I feel like, they are being a supplemental instructor for an anatomy program. I've already written that one out. And then another one is my work as a president of my honor society. And then the third one, I was thinking of using my involvement in my volunteerism in nature conservancy projects, because the truth of it is for me that was really what really kindled my interest in science, and then eventually medicine, and also just simple things like looking into a microscope. Does that make sense? And it's not totally unrelated to medicine in the final analysis.
Just be careful, because how you described that to me is more most meaningful on your journey to medical school and most meaningful on your journey to liking science, and not most meaningful to you as a person. So reflect on that a little bit more.
So you're saying that it's not most meaningful in my journey to medicine?
That is correct.
I see. Okay, well, I wasn't thinking of it that way. That is helpful. Thank you.
You are welcome. Musa.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Perfect. So I was also applying through this cycle, and I was looking at the numbers for the average cost of the medical school. I bought the MSAR from the AAMC that gives you like details of the school and how much it will cost you and the average in depth. But there is an inconsistency between the two numbers. For example, you'd see a school that has like an average cost of $100,000, and then the average graduate in depth will be like $200,000. And then you'd see another school which is only $70,000, and then the average in depth will be more. So, is there a way, to what extent these numbers matter?
So, the thing that you have to look at is, one is budget, right? Tuition. It depends on what they're actually giving you. A lot of times it's just tuition that they're giving you, but your school's budget, the budget that they create, which includes tuition, cost of living, transportation, school fees, stuff like that, potentially aren't included in the budget.
Right.
And you can take out loans up into the budget amount.
Okay.
Right. And so what you're looking at two different numbers. Indebtedness includes everything, and tuition times 4 doesn't equal that. The other thing that you're kind of conflating is average indebtedness per student, when some students took out maximum loans, some students took out half loans, some students took out 0 loans. And so those numbers are not going to be just simple tuition times 4.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Wyatt.
Hello.
Hello.
Thanks for having me on.
You're welcome. Pronounce your last name for me.
Shep Oyster.
Shep Oyster.
Yeah.
Nice.
Oh, yeah.
Nice German last name.
Yes, and I actually just found that out. I've been saying it for weeks my entire life, but I was by my parents.
Nice.
So 2 questions. First question, relating to like siblings in med school.
Yeah.
So by the time I apply, which will be in like 2 years, my brother will be in his 2nd or 3rd year of med school.
Okay.
Would it ever be appropriate to bring that up in like the application or like a secondary application? Or would it be only appropriate for the med school that he's applying to, he is already at, and I would be applying to mention like, oh, with my brother being there, it'd be really cool to be at the school and blah, 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 and stuff like that.
Yeah. So it makes the most sense in that capacity, right? Of applying to the same school that he's at to say why you want to go there. But outside of that, I'm not sure where else it potentially would come up that your brother's a medical student.
Okay.
There may be some part of your journey to medicine, why you want to be a physician, that may come up, but it doesn't sound like it'd be super, a super common thing to just randomly drop.
Yeah, not really. Yeah, and the personal statement, just be like, oh yeah, my brother is a doctor. So second question. So I'm a behavioral technician. So I work with children with autism. And my favorite thing about the job is being able to like play with the kids, but also to do a lot of like, work and really changing their lives.
Yeah.
How much of like the play aspect should I put in the activities description without making it sound like all I do is play?
Yeah. I would be careful with that.
Okay.
Because my assumption is that not a ton of people understand what behavioral health technicians do. Very similar to a common issue that students have working in child life in a hospital is it's a lot of play, right? But it's play therapy specifically for what you're doing. And so I think there may be there may be some issues if you focus too much on the play aspect.
Okay. So so just going off of what you said then. So like what I'm thinking is maybe like start off with like, the story aspect and then maybe just like what we were playing, but then how I like worked in the programming and like actually like the things that I'm trying to teach them. So not focusing on so much of the play, but like
potentially
building off of the play.
Tell a story of an interaction there.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. Well, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Daniel, hello there.
Hi, Dr. Gray. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi. So I have kind of a unique question, I guess. Maybe it's not that unique. So I originally applied to law school. I was accepted, and I have kind of a cliche story about how it came to me to want to go into medicine. It had to do with my whole family getting sick with COVID, and one of those crazy, stories that everybody in America seems to have, Yeah. And something that I'm worried about is, I went from the military to I owned a business to the military to applying to law school, and now I want to become a physician. I'm kind of worried that the medical schools will look at me as someone who is not serious, lacks commitment. But to me, this is it. There is nothing else in the world I want to do than help patients.
Yeah.
How do I convey that this is not a flip-flop thing? I mean, my father wanted to be a lawyer. He's a lawyer, but it never was in my heart, this is my destiny. But medicine feels like my destiny. How do I convey that?
You don't convey it. You show it through your actions.
Okay.
Right. And then you write about those activities and the impact that they had on you and the reflection that you have about why those activities meant a lot to you. in your essays, in your activities section, that's where that comes across.
Okay.
Don't try too hard to show them through your writing of like, I really, really want this. I'm not just flip-flopping. I really, really want it. Because then you're not going to do that. It's going only to be through your activities, your actions that are going to be able to show that you have enough exposure and experience, and then reflecting on those things in your writing.
So just to clarify what you said, so I'm 100% sure, I should show how my experiences were meaningful to me as a person and how those experiences shaped who I am that led me to want to continue serving people in medicine. Does that kind of sum it up?
Yep.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Gray.
Yeah, you're welcome. Alex.
Hi, Dr. Gray. How are you today?
I'm good. Hello there.
Well, I kind of have 3 questions. One
let's do one to
Oh,
save room for everyone else.
Yep. I have a question about my Canadian. I am a Canadian student, and I would like to apply for the medical school. Because I grew up going to Florida every summer with my family, and I really love it. I'm going to visit my family, of course. So, would that count as strong ties?
Yeah, it could. It could.
And how do I show that
You
strong
don't.
ties?
That would come typically in a school's secondary essays. Some schools will send specific secondary essays to non-resident students, non-resident applicants, and ask them why they're interested as a non-resident of that state in that school. And that's where you would talk about it.
And can I apply to school in the surrounding area, but not necessarily bordering states?
I don't know what the question is.
I mean, for example, I want to apply to South Carolina and Tennessee, and those applications to my list.
You can apply there, but the strong ties won't make sense then.
Oh, okay. Because I'll have family in South Carolina, but I haven't gone visited there.
Yeah. Yeah, just something to look at.
Thank you.
Good questions, Alex. Thanks. McCaden.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. How you doing?
Doing pretty good. So I missed your application thing where you were going over the personal statements and like earlier this year. And I am having difficulty with narrowing down what that experience is that you're talking about to that experience that triggers my story. And I know that it comes from being in a doctor's office, but there's so many that happen like right in a row that do I just pick the biggest one? Do I just maybe try to pick something I remember the most? How do I figure out what that moment was that started my story?
You just go back as far as you can go in your memory to that moment that started your journey and exploration of healthcare. And it doesn't have to be a huge part of your essay if it's not a super exciting thing and it's just something small. You can quickly move on to something else about a watering event. So if you check out my my personal statement book, the Premed Playbook Guide to the Medical School Personal Statement, that really breaks down. That's this one here. Really breaks down how to think about your journey and how to write about it.
Okay, so even if it was as like stupid as having our doctor next door that was going through medical school and he pulled a Polly Pocket shoe out of my nose because I shoved it up there, and then it was like, then I was like, oh,
That's
hey,
your story.
okay. That makes sense. And then is it appropriate? I'll definitely read the book, but is it appropriate to then bring in the other experiences that accelerated that passion to going towards medicine?
Yeah, so I don't know. It depends on what you mean by accelerated. Typically, what happens is students will write multiple things about the seeds. So multiple seeds of like, this thing exposed me to medicine, and this thing also exposed me to medicine, and this thing also exposed me to medicine. And then I started actually working in medicine or being around patients, et cetera, which is what I call the watering events. And typically, I don't think you need multiple seeds. It's just one seed and then water those things.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Mark.
Hi, Dr. Gray, and thank you first for hosting this again and doing this for us. Really appreciate it. My question is regarding my strategy, and I wanted to get your opinion on whether or not I'm addressing it correctly. I'm a not traditional applicant. I went and did aerospace engineering as my bachelor's, and I kind of in the junior year, closer to the senior year, I had some personal issues I was dealing with, complex immigration. I had to, switch to working full time and so on. And I failed one class, and my curve kind of looks, in terms of grades and goes AAA, BBB, AAF, and then back up. And I wanted to, and it obviously needs to be addressed, I think, by anybody who's looking and reading the application. And I wanted to put that as one of my meaningful experiences and describe the entire process, the kind of facing a challenge, overcoming a challenge, and also explaining, why the dip. Is that, appropriate to do?
In a personal statement?
As an activity and a meaningful experience. Because personal statement, I want to, leave, to exploring medicine. How did I come here?
So what would the activity be? How would you categorize it?
I would categorize it as, I'm not sure what are all the different categories, but something that has to do with maybe academic or personal challenge, overcoming that, and hence kind of touching on why the dip.
Yeah, so that is not appropriate for the activity section. That's not what the activity section is for. A lot of schools will have secondary essays that will ask you to explain grades lower than a B- or explain any discrepancies in your grades.
Oh, okay.
So I would probably just leave it up to the schools that want to ask questions along those lines and use the primary application for its main purpose.
Oh, cool. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Mary.
Awesome. Okay, so first of all, Dr. Gray, you do amazing work. Thank you so much for everything you do for pre-med students. And now I'm applying next cycle, and I was wondering, how important is it to do a post-bac if I want to do an MD PhD?
Ask that one more time.
How important is it for me to do a post-bac or something similar, or like research for a year if I want to do an MD PhD?
Well, if you want to do an MD PhD, research should be a huge part of everything that you're doing. Do you have any research?
Yeah, I have at least 1,000 hours, and I'm a rising junior.
Okay, that's good. So people only need to do post-bac work typically if they majored in something non-science, and so they have to go take their prereqs, or they're trying to improve their grades.
Yeah, I apologize for that. I misspoke. I just meant like a research for a year or a couple years.
That just depends on how much research you have now and how much you'll have when you apply.
Okay.
There's no set number to tell you if you're below this number, then go do more research.
Okay. And also, I've received some advice indicating that I should only apply to either MD or MD PhD programs. Do you think this is good advice, or should I keep my options open?
Meaning only apply MD or only apply MD PhD and not apply MD only even if you're applying to MD PhD programs?
Mm-hmm.
Why were you given that advice?
I don't know. I was talking to another student that is currently in the application cycle for an MD PhD, and she said that someone else told her that she should just focus on either an MD or MD PhD because then your feelings get confused and it's harder to write the secondaries and all these extra stuff.
So you heard from someone else who heard from someone else who heard from someone else who heard. So that's what you should do. I know plenty of people who apply MD, PhD, and just MD with the hope that potentially they can switch into a PhD program through the MD program. I think at the end of the day, it makes sense to only apply to one. If you're telling me you want to be an MD, PhD student, and you're also applying to MD schools, well then how set are you on MD, PhD? Right, this goes back to my whole don't have a plan B language. If you want to be an MD, PhD, apply to MD, PhD schools. Don't apply to an MD school with the potential, maybe, hopefully, adding a PhD while you're in school or getting a PhD after, because life happens. And if you're not going to be happy, quote unquote, just being an MD, then why apply to MD programs alone?
Yeah, I guess like
So that's
the way I
just
look at
that's
it.
up to you.
Yeah, because like I should see it in an end goal. I don't necessarily have to have an MD PhD because I can still do research as an MD.
Well,
So I don't
then,
see like
then you shouldn't be applying to MD, PhD programs.
okay.
People who
Sure.
apply to MD, PhD programs want to be MD, PhD students, want to be MD, PhD physicians, physician scientists, right? Not just, I really like research, therefore I'm going to do an MD, PhD. It's a very different career path. And too many students think of it as, oh, I like research. I have a lot of it, so I'll do it. And, oh, there's a perk. It's free. But if you don't want to be an MD, PhD, don't be an MD, PhD. If you can see yourself like, oh, it's just an end goal. I want to do a lot of research as a physician. It doesn't sound like you're chasing the path for the right reason.
Okay. All right. Thank you. A lot to think about.
More reflection. Saghar. How do you say that? Saghar.
Sahar, hi, Dr. Ray. Thank you so much for.
Hello.
Thank you so much for everything.
Silent G got me. What's up?
So I am a non-traditional student. I graduated my undergrad in 2015, and then I did a 3-year master's program, non-science master's, and graduated in 2018. So my question here is, I've heard that some schools like the 5-year rule, and since then I've taken like 2 science courses just to like sort of remain, I guess, in the science field. But do you see that as a major problem? For me, I'm on 3 current wait lists, and I know my issue is MCAT. I'm just worried if I need to do anything on the school side of things, I guess.
You answered your question already. You're on 3 wait lists, which means you were getting interviews, which means schools don't care.
Okay. Yeah, that was something if I need to reapply, I was worried if I had to do anything about, but...
No, continue taking classes. I think it's always good to continue to be in the mind of a student.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not like you need to redo all your prereqs. Just take a random class here or there.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much. That was my question.
Good.
Thank you.
Yep. Khalid.
Hey, Dr. Gray, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. So I have kind of a basic question. So I'm actually kind of new to this whole medical school thing. I've only recently decided I wanted to, go on this path. Yep. So I'm kind of confused because I'm asking people advice on what I should do and then some people tell me, oh, you need to have more extracurriculars. Some people know grades are the most important. You really need extracurriculars. So I was wondering, like, what is like the most important thing in this process? And like for extracurriculars, like what are like the top 2 or 3 extracurriculars I should focus on? Because some people say research is the best. Some people say clinical experience. So kind of very confused.
Research to me is the most overrated part of an application that students focus on. So the answer for me is not research. The answer for me is chase what you're passionate about and make sure that you're getting clinical experience in shadowing to put yourself around patients and put yourself around physicians to understand what you're getting yourself into in the future, so that you can both prove to yourself that this is what you want to make sure you're not making a mistake, and then ultimately prove to medical schools as well.
All right. Oh, that was about it.
All righty.
Thank you.
Yep. Rutul.
You said right.
All right.
Hello, Dr. Great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
So my question is about, first of all, I'm a rising junior and I'm studying biomedical engineering undergrad. And I plan to apply, go to med school right after my undergrad. So my question is about the experiences. Like, what is the recommended hours or amount of clinical shadowing and volunteering experience that one must absolutely have?
I don't think about anything in terms of how many hours or anything you need. Medical schools aren't looking at that. It's not just a checklist game. So do the things that you want to do the things you have time for. And very similar to the last question, make sure you're getting clinical experience in shadowing to continue to prove to yourself that this is what you want.
Yeah, I was just concerned because, because of COVID, for like past year, the different volunteer programs around my community have been on hold, and I haven't been able to get any kind of experience. I'm doing virtual shadowing now a little bit, but yeah, I was just concerned if, lack of experience would be a negative point on my application.
It could be, but everyone also has issues with COVID, so you're not alone. Shocker! COVID took over the planet.
Okay. I guess that's it for now. Thank you very much.
Yep. Helia.
Hello, Dr. Gray. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah. So I am definitely a non-traditional student. I finished Bachelor of Architecture a few years ago, and then now I'm doing another Bachelor in Science, and I don't know how I should describe that. How should I say? Well, I changed my mind. I finished Bachelor of Architecture, and then I became interested in medical. So I wanted to know if you have any tips for me.
I don't think you're any different than everyone else who has to explain at the end of the day why they want to be a physician. Your starting point's just a little bit different than someone who's just a normal kind of traditional college student. You're starting at a different place, but at the end of the day, the question that you're answering is, why do you want to be a doctor? Not why do you not want to be an architect anymore?
I see. So they're not going to look at it as a negative thing that I finished under Bachelor and then I decided to become.
Nope.
And I decided, oh, okay, I understand.
Nope. That's just your journey.
I see. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Yeah. Allie.
Hi, thanks for talking with me. I had a quick question about the level of honesty on a personal application, and it might sound strange, but one of the reasons why I wanted to enter medicine, and especially in psychiatry or neurology, is that I personally struggled with some of those issues myself when I was younger, and had experience with less development in that field, and bad diagnoses and etc., which led me to understand why research, medical research, and practice together can lead to could potentially lead to better developments that could help a lot of people, which is why I want to pursue an MD PhD. But I was wondering what level of honesty is most appropriate, because some of these things are very dark, potentially.
Yeah, so I think there are a couple of things to unpack there. Number one, at the end of the day, you have to tell your story. And so if your own personal struggle with mental health is a big reason why you want to be a physician, that's probably going to be in your personal statement. Obviously, there are ways to word things or change things around or minimize to not throw out too many red flags, to not be too brutally honest, to not cause any concern there. The other thing to make sure that you're not doing is being negative towards other healthcare providers, other physicians, to go, I want to be a doctor because Dr. Smith is a terrible person. He misdiagnosed me. He didn't care about me. And so I want to be a doctor to prove him wrong. So you don't want to go down that path. You just want to talk about your experiences, not deflecting on anyone else. And then potentially why those experiences for you have led to you wanting to be a physician. And what I always bring up is, let's just throw out, just because it's top of mind, it's going to be an old Premeds episode on Wednesday, is a student asked a question about bipolar disorder, and is that something they should talk about in their personal statement in their application. So if you have bipolar and you want to talk about that, well, there are lots of people who have bipolar disorder. What was it about you and your experience that led you to want to be a physician? So just making sure that you're connecting the dots and not just being lazy and going, I have bipolar disorder, therefore I want to be a doctor, right? There needs to be a few steps in there that help you realize that.
Got it. Thank you so much.
You are welcome. All right. I've been accepting some more people. Get some more people coming in. I threw up an offer there. I'll throw it up again now. If you're looking for some help with your primary or secondary applications, use the promo code SUMMER over at mapped.com, which is more of the advising stuff that I'm doing now. If you've seen me before, you've checked out Medical School Headquarters, medicalschoolhq.net. Medicalschoolhq.net will be more of the free content side of things, and all the advising stuff is shifting over to Mapped. So you can save 20% on primary, secondary, and interview prep over there. Hello.
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 Yeah. Hi, Dr. Gray. Thank you so much for having me on.
You're welcome.
Okay, as long as you can hear me. So piggybacking off of actually a question.
Who's talking right now?
Oh, well, it's Pradita.
Yeah, it has to be you now.
Okay. So piggybacking off of a previous question about, I think it was like about mental health, but mine started out volunteering or going for a procedure at Planned Parenthood, and I was told that I should not talk about that because of Planned Parenthood being, I guess, like it's like politically I should not talk about that. Yeah. So I wanted to know what you thought about that and how I should go about that, because that was, I guess you could say, one of my seeds. I could definitely go further back in time, but
I think you should talk about your true seed. It sounds like maybe you're trying to use that because maybe it's more exciting than anything else. But tell your seed. If it happens to be Planned Parenthood, it happens to be Planned Parenthood. Luckily, higher education is more of a liberal environment because people are more educated. So I don't think it'll be an issue.
All right. Thank you so much.
Yep. You're welcome.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I can.
How are you, Dr. Ryan?
I'm good. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for having me. So I have a question. I've been watching a lot of your videos and mainly hello?
Hello.
Yeah. So my question is that I've watched a lot of your videos, and I've noticed that in the narrative of the essays answering questions on interviews mainly has been about, not throwing a sales pitch, mentioning what your experience is purely and its reflection on you. But what do you do in a situation where you're being asked a question like something like, you have to throw in a sales pitch, like, why should we pick you? Why do you think you're capable, or something like that?
Yeah. So I think there are three questions that are all the same question. Why should we accept you?
Yeah.
What diversity do we bring to this? What diversity do you bring to our community, to our class? And one other one that I always forget that I can't think of right now. Why should we accept you? Diversity. I don't know.
I think it's like, what do you got? Like something along the lines. Do you have what it takes to go through medical school?
No, not that one.
No.
But the question is around diversity and what do you add, right? And so
Correct.
there is a little bit of a sales pitch aspect to that.
Yeah.
But how I like to approach that is, here are my skills, here are my traits, here are my experiences that are going to help me be a part of this class, to help me add to the educational environment of my classmates. So you're not saying, look at how amazing I am, look at how amazing I am, look at how amazing I am.
Mm-hmm.
You're saying, here's what I've lived, here's who I am, and here's how I'm going to help other people.
Okay, that's great. Thank you. And another question about writing disadvantaged essays. Now, do you have to for instance, if a person in their childhood have experienced homelessness, low income, contributed to homelessness and poverty and things like that, do you have, if you didn't experience that as severely as you did in your childhood, in your undergrad, do you have to still mention it? Because can you still mention it? It's my question.
So it sounds like the question you're asking is, if my disadvantage isn't as bad as other people's disadvantage, can I still talk about it? Is it worth talking about? And the answer is, it's your story. Tell it. Don't worry about other people's crap.
Okay. Okay.
Right? It's right. If we all try to sit here and compare trauma, somebody's going to win. Do we want to know who wins? No, we all have our own crap that we deal with.
Okay. Does having a disadvantaged essay with let's say a good disadvantaged essay, do you think that make your application more favorable, or not mentioning that and giving hints on it in the other essays, because there's a lot of essays to write in that and the code?
I don't think you should call back to your disadvantaged essay in other parts of the application.
Okay, because you want to keep that mostly positive and reflective of you. And
well, it's not that you want to keep it positive or reflective. It's that it's a separate part of the application. Your personal statement stands alone. Your activity section stand alone. Your secondary stand alone.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Ronald.
Hi, Dr. Gray. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. I had a question regarding my recent application cycle in 2020. It was unsuccessful, but I recently completed a special master's program and decided to get a job as a scribe. I'm hopefully going to be starting soon. And I wanted to also volunteer at a hospital whenever I get some free time as well.
Okay.
And I just had a question for you in terms of, how should I be spending, what should I do during this time from my next cycle of application, which will be for the for the fall of entering class of 2023?
So the question at the end of the day is, why didn't you get into medical school last time? That's where you have to start. You can't just go, I didn't get into medical school, let me just do a bunch of other things and hope that next time I'm successful, right? That's like taking an MCAT practice test, getting a 490, not looking at the test, not reviewing it at all, and just going and taking another one and hoping you do better. So
Right.
The question for you is, why didn't you get into medical school the first time?
I actually spoke to an advisor about this, and she did mention that I was lacking in terms of clinical experiences, and a lot of my essays and part of my personal statement is lacking some of that in it, and that it would help me kind of build my personal statement if I were to build my clinical experiences as a whole.
So the question then is, why are you doing an SMP?
My undergrad was less than stellar, for lack of a better term.
Okay. So why is that not the reason you didn't get into medical school?
Well, I did speak to her about it, and she said, well, your recent grades are much better than your performance in undergrad. So even though it is a weakness, it might be overlooked because you have shown a lot of improvement recently.
Okay. So it sounds like you didn't have enough clinical experience and you didn't reflect on those experiences enough in your application, which is a very common mistake.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's what I wanted. Okay.
It sounds like you're getting it as a scribe.
Yeah, here's to hoping, and I'm really looking forward to it. I just want to know, is there any other bit of advice you would give me to before I apply?
Look at getting some help with your application next time, with writing your essays and trying to figure out how to tell your story there.
Okay. All right.
We can help you with that at Mapped if you want help there.
I actually just recently signed up, and I have to update some information on it, but I'm going to be using the service.
Nice. Well, I think you're probably talking about the Mapped app. So there's Mapped app and there's Mapped advising. So through the Mapped advising, there's some room for essay feedback there as well. So Good luck.
All right. Thank you very much.
Yep. All right. Chloe.
Hi, Dr. Gray.
Hello.
So I'm an upcoming junior, and I've just started studying for the MCAT with the Altius program.
Okay.
And as you probably know, it's a very intensive program that's very difficult and long and kind of takes up a lot of hours. And so some of the conversations I've had with my tutor are kind of surrounding admissions, even though it's kind of in the future for me. I still wanted to get a head start on it. But one of the things he mentioned to me is regarding research, because at the moment I don't have any research experience, but he's telling me that if I was interested in applying to research universities, that it would be beneficial for me to get research. And since I'm in this program and since I'll be applying next application season, I was wondering, would it be worth the time and maybe the stress on doing this program on top of work and school to look into doing some research?
Are you interested in doing research?
Not necessarily.
So then why would you potentially apply to a school that's going to mandate it?
I guess I'm just not 100% sure on what schools mandate research, because
well, that's just research. Just do some Googling and find out what schools require research, what schools don't require research. It's simple to look up. At the end of the day, do what you want to do. Don't go check off a checklist that says, okay, I got research, now you should accept me because I have research. If you end up at an institution that's going to be more heavily oriented around research and they require research throughout your time, you're not going to be happy because you just told me you're not super interested in it.
Okay, that makes sense. So this information, I just Google the school if they require research and that kind of thing, and it should just show up.
Yeah, just look around and see what type of research requirements they may have.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Liz.
Hello, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, sorry, I just got off work. Thank you for having
Chick-fil-A.
me.
Yum.
Yay. But so that's actually kind of funny because one of my main experiences is from Chick-fil-A. What had happened was this whole story, and I tell that in my personal statement. Basically, we had a deaf customer, and I am fluent in sign language, and I will graduate with a minor in it. And that's just been it was a really building block for me because I want to help the deaf community a lot as a doctor, because 1 in 5 Americans is deaf or hard of hearing. And it's a large number that a lot of people don't know about. And is that appropriate even though it's not medical?
I think it would just depend on how you write it and how you reflect on it. It potentially could work.
Okay. Just because and I'm doing shadowing and all that, and I'm going to be a senior, but I'm taking a gap year. but like I just don't see that kind of experience happening again because it was just so rare and it was just something so beautiful that I like. It's hard to let go of, I guess.
Yeah. Tell your story, and the personal statement is about why you want to be a physician. So if you think you can tie it in well enough, try it.
Awesome.
Try it and get some
Thank you.
feedback. My pleasure.
Okay.
See what I did there?
My
See what I did there?
pleasure.
My pleasure. That's the one thing I hate about Chick-fil-A. I mean, there's a few things I hate about Chick-fil-A we don't have to get into, but my pleasure is one of them. I hate that you all are forced to say my pleasure because it's so inauthentic.
So it's like totally engraved in my brain. Like, I'm not kidding. My friends, my family, like, I'll hold the door for a stranger. And they're like, oh, thanks. And I'm like, my pleasure. I'm going to leave now. Goodbye. You know exactly where I work. I'll see you there. Bye.
Exactly. It's inauthentic. Like, say you're welcome, or like have a list of 20 things that you can choose from and rotate through them that all mean my. It's just, I hate it. Anyway.
Okay. Well, thank you, Dr. Gray.
You're welcome. Eva.
Hello, Dr. Gray. Can you hear me?
I can.
Thank you so much for your advice. Really appreciate it. And the question I had is that I'm a junior in undergrad right now, but I originally was a pre-dental student until last semester that I changed. So
And then you became smart and came to the right side.
Yeah, I mean, I still love pre-dental, but
no, we don't want that.
You don't want that. But there were a few things that made me change my mind. And I, of course, have a lot of shadowing hours as a pre-dental. And last summer, I shadowed an oral and maxillofacial surgeon for the whole summer, which brought me up to like 60 hours and something like that.
Okay.
Which I know that that can also be done through getting an MD, like a 2-year after a DDS degree.
Yep.
But I don't know if it would be good for me to put all that shadowing experience in my application as a med student. So I
put
need
it on.
advice from you.
Put it on.
So should I put even the dental, like even the dentist, or
put it on?
Okay.
Yeah.
you think-
Ideally, you have quote unquote physician MD-DO shadowing on top of that. But I think it's a part of your story and goes to show the experiences that you've had. So I think it's perfectly fine. In your personal statement, very likely is going to be how I talk about it in my personal statement book is what is your seed for healthcare? Now, your seed is going to be more along the lines of becoming a dentist. And then at some point you have a pivot point that made you realize, oh, I don't want to be a dentist. I want to be a physician.
Yeah. So do you think, can I put even like because I've done a lot of like volunteering through dental, like we had Give Kids a Smile who we do like free free dental clinics.
Put it on your application.
Everything?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you default to putting it on your application and then remove what you need to remove to make room for things.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Yep.
Have a great day.
Natalie.
Hi, Dr. Gray.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I can.
Thanks for having me. Oh, this is so exciting.
I'm excited too. What's
I have had a lot of questions, but I'll try to focus it. I just have two. I've gone through the cycle this year after planning for years to go through the cycle, having a lot of issues, committing to actually going through it and taking the test, a lot of anxiety. And a lot of things that happened over COVID brought me to a point where I submitted everything last minute. I didn't do as well on my test. And I know those are points that I need to improve, probably a good reason why I didn't get accepted. I've watched you for a long time and I've read a lot of your books, but my question is that my first question is about my personal statement. You always said, commit to your story. This is your story. Focus on that. But I don't really have a story as to why I chose medicine. I've always just, since the day one, I mean, as a child.
Baloney.
I've dug deep trying to figure out what it is. And I have a lot of stories that have solidified my choice in medicine. I've been a medical assistant, a scribe for years. I'm working now as a medical assistant, and I've got a second job as a EKG tech at the hospital.
Okay, I don't care about all the work that you're doing now. There's a reason. Out of the thousands of students I talk to, there's maybe been a half a dozen that truly have no reason why they're doing this. It's just
I don't know. I dug deep. I followed all your advice, and I can't come to that pinpoint point in my life that I came to that conclusion.
so that's the problem. Is it's not pinpoint, right? It's not this aha moment that's like,
yeah, exactly.
Oh, like I'm going to be a doctor. No, that doesn't happen that way. It's when did you first realize that healthcare was a thing? That there were these people out there called physicians taking care of people.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
That's not this pinpoint. I knew right then and there that I wanted to be a doctor. That just doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That's not how we humans work. We have an experience that goes, ooh, that's cool. Let me check that out. Ooh, that's cool. Let me check that out. Ooh, I like that cartoon. Oh, that's called anime. Let me go check that out. Ooh, I like that scary thing. Oh, that's called horror film. Let me go check out horror films. And now I'm a horror film addict, right? It's not this one thing that's like you're all of a sudden an expert or all of a sudden that's what your passion is. It's bit by bit by bit by bit. It's adding to who you are as a person where there really is no other choice than I'm going to be a doctor.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've been struggling with finding that seed, I guess. My second question is, I do have clinical experience, volunteer, research. I mean, I'm not checking boxes. It's just something that I'm committed to every day. But I'm just trying to think about what else I can do over the next year to reapply. And I wanted to get your input.
I can't answer that for you because I don't know what your application looks like now. I don't know where you have some discrepancies, where you have some weaknesses. But for the far majority of people, it's do what you want to do.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much.
You're welcome. It's almost impossible for me here doing in Q&A sessions for me to tell you what to do, for me to advise you on how to spend your time, right? That requires a deep dive into everything that you've done so far, what you're interested in doing, and then trying to figure out what you're capable of in terms of finances, in terms of time, in terms of location. That's a deep conversation that we do a bunch with one-on-one advising. But for a Q&A session like that, it's just impossible to give you that accurate of information. Elena, how do you say that? Learning lots of new pronunciations today. I like it.
You can hear me now?
I can.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hi. Well, I'm a non-traditional student. I'm a mommy of two, and I decided to go back to med school, to pre-med. So I'm a junior right now.
Okay.
And I do have, obviously, in the world of COVID, nobody can get into shadowing. So this is one of the reasons I was in here today. But I do have a dentist in town that I've known since I was very young, and she was willing to give me, clinical experience. So it's kind of piggybacking off the previous person. You think that that's a good idea?
No.
And in the meantime, do virtual?
No.
No.
It's a different story, right? Context matters. The previous person wanted to be a dentist to begin with. So they had lots of shadowing of dentists and interactions, clinical experiences in a dental setting.
Yes.
You just said, I want to go to medical school. So it doesn't make sense for you to then shadow a dentist.
Okay. So in the meantime, what you're recommending is like doing these virtual shadowings until we can try to get into a
in-person
hospital.
shadowing is opening up.
Is it? Okay.
You just need to call and talk and talk. In person,
Absolutely.
the world is opening back up. The US is opening back up. So If you're vaccinated, I would lead with that everywhere you go. I'm like, I'm vaccinated. Can I come in? Which all of you in here should be vaccinated. If you are pre-med and you believe in science, get vaccinated, please. But yeah, you just need to do a bunch of cold calling and emailing because physicians are letting students shadow again.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thank you, everyone, for coming out, hanging out tonight. We will count this as a e-shadowing session, an hour of credit to your time. We'll set up a quiz for you all, and we will we'll get it counted there. So I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I appreciate all of you to come hang out with me. I love doing Q&A, so I enjoy these sessions with you all. There will be no e-shadowing the next 2 weeks. I will send an email for that. But I am traveling the next 2 weeks. So there will be no e-shadowing the next 2 weeks, and we'll come back on the 26th. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening. Talk to you soon.